about stepping up? Bang! Bang!
It's time to level up your game. Introducing the all-new ESPN app. All of ESPN, all in one place. Your home for the most live sports and the best championship moments.
The electricity is palpable.
Step up your game with no annual contract required. It's the ultimate fan experience. Level up for more on the ESPN app or at stream.espn.com. Sign up now.
Hey, it's me, shakeable, breakable, unmistakable Claptrap. But don't break me, break free in Borderlands 4, the newest, bestest looter shooter you can play with friends. Everything's better with friends, and I would totally know. Pre-order Borderlands 4 now.
Rated mature.
The Roses were living the dream.
To you, my darling.
No, to you.
Until it all came crashing down.
You got fired.
Fired?
This Friday, stop.
You stop!
And see The Roses. Rated R. In theaters everywhere Friday.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbifs Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, top 14, Pro de Nationale, French national teams, the Heineken Cup, whatever it's called now, Champions Cup, Challenge Cups, most importantly of all, the brilliant towns, cities, bars, restaurants, fans, people of France that make the game, the experience that we love of French rugby so fantastic week after week. It's been a long, cold, lonely 2.5 week hiatus. My co-host Rob
about three heat waves.
How have you been? How have you filled the void?
Well, playing cricket a bit, but I think watched a bit of I've actually found myself watching quite a bit of NRL.
Oh yeah,
and the 100, I'd say. But yeah, been enjoying NRL. They I feel like there's a few things that you could definitely pinch for other bits of French rugby. This weekend is like country round,
nice.
Which obviously with a lot of the teams are in the cities, so they kind of go out to like, there was like some random, I watched the Penrith game and they were playing at a town with a population of like 12,000 that had 9,000 people attending the game, nearly 10,000.
Good day to be
I mean, it was like, yeah, but it was like, it'd be, I guess it'd be the equivalent of like Toulouse popping down to Albi maybe, or popping down to even somewhere even smaller than that. Be quite cool to see those French teams go to a little out game, like Yorkshire playing at Scarborough, stuff like that. You know, like a little outground.
I love the outground stuff they do in county cricket. They are really good in Australia at that. Across a few sports.
Yeah, they do take them around.
I was actually watching. I was watching a bit of the NRL yesterday. It was Parramatta against the Roosters. Watching Mark Nawazi do
unreal,
ridiculous things, and there was a lot of like rugby. You don't need him back, which is quite good. But just the what would you call it? The level of vociferousness of Australian commentary, like to the extent I had it on, and Claudia came in and was like started doing impressions of it because it was so like. It's like something out of like a comic book.
Mate, they're amazing.
They're quite good value,
absolutely
aren't they?
amazing. I don't know how they come up with, like, if you studied Andrew Voss, you'd have to really study him to. He's a master. He's a master at his work. Like some of the links he makes. Yeah, they are very good at promoting it. And they do the origin. No, They do the home Nate or whatever it's called. I don't want to say the politically incorrect thing. First Nations, but the Aboriginal round. So they do like
First Nations round, is it called?
First Nations, yeah. Some of those kits are like,
they're so cool, aren't they?
Yeah, you just need, I think, any excuse for like a random round where you can have a completely ridiculous flair kit is again something that rugby union can use. Maybe like your local football team. Like I'm trying to think of like when Newcastle wore like the black and white stripes.
Yeah, that was class. Yeah.
So you got Toulouse, Stade Toulousain playing in like Toulouse purple, or like, don't know. Yeah. I guess we've seen Ube Bay in quite football type kit, haven't we?
You could do a retro round, like when they wheeled out the old shirts last year. Yeah. But also you're allowed to like just fill people in from the sideline. It's like a kind of brilliant old kit.
Thomas Lavanini gets re-signed.
collar shirts and a few guys coming in on medical jokers just to throw their way around. Rob, one thing you have been up to while we've been away is we've had a glow up. We're looking good. Talk us through it.
Well, it was a team effort, but I've got fed up of looking at my very, very budget, I think possibly even done on an iPad, PowerPoint drawings that were done before. We tried to make it a little bit more professional. All self-made still. We've not got anyone in, It's all both me and Richard having a play around with various different tools. But yeah, I'm happy with it. I like it. Feel a bit more professional. Hopefully the listener numbers will boom.
When we're the biggest sports podcast in the world, we'll
have a retro round.
We'll have a retro round, but we'll auction off that original design. Like do it as remember that was a few years ago. I haven't heard about it in 2 years. Those NFT like digital image things. Some rogue crypto billionaire will buy the NFT of the Stickman for 20 quid or something like that. All right. Well, some rugby. There's
what have you been up to, Richard?
I was telling you yesterday, I've been trying my hand at a bit of DIY, Rob. Not very successfully, it must be said. Not semi-successful in the garden. Enlisted some help from some older, wiser people, but built some raised beds. That was interesting.
Oh, very nice.
And
what are you putting in there? Various herbs to
I think
create sauce palois or béarnaise sauce.
You can't plant mint in the ground, can you? Because it takes over. So I think the sauce palois, was that the béarnaise with mint in it from episode 1?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
So we'll need to plot that out properly. And then, yesterday I was resealing a bath, which was actually quite satisfying, but turns out a bit more prep involved than I'd anticipated. So, and a bit of leaving stuff to wait and dry and all this sort of nonsense. Not really my bag, but trying to keep myself interested.
Which means that while you were waiting for stuff to dry, you found some time to watch a bit of rugby, I think.
I did. I saw it's the Women's World Cup kicked off on Friday night up in Sunderland, wasn't it? Stadium of Light. But yesterday I caught a bit of the France-Italy game down at Sandy Park, where I'll actually be in 2 weeks to watch, going down with a few old schoolmates, bizarrely down to Exeter, where obviously we went to university. There's a double header. It's Wales-Fiji, as is required at every World Cup. And I actually can't remember the other game, but it's like a back-to-back double header. So, quite looking forward to that. But watched France, Italy yesterday. Just as a preface to this, I know we haven't covered too much of the women's game. We've spoken about Elite a few times, probably in the context mainly of kind of Stade Bordelais and Blognac and teams like that. But we have covered it more than the World Rugby did in their recent women's growth of the game report, where I saw our mate Hugh put out. Do you know how many mentions there were of Elite in the report?
You'd like to think at least one.
0.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're doing a little bit better than that, and we'll try and do a bit better throughout the season. But I think kind of France coming into this, and I don't profess to be too much of an expert, coming like pretty strongish sides. Notably, back end of the Six Nations lost out by a point to the Red Roses, who are obviously pretty much the most dominant team in probably international sport at the moment. I would have thought, with whatever the run is.
Yeah.
Which is quite something. But they had a pre-season game, I guess a tournament warm-up game down at Nationale a couple of weeks ago against England, which they lost pretty soundly. They have been missing, and were missing yesterday, their kind of linchpin 9, Pauline Bourdon-Sansus, who was banned for berating the referee after Toulouse's loss to Stade Bordelais in the Elite Féminin final, which I thought was just French, isn't it? Without dialing it in too much. But yesterday, it's hard to make of it. The commentators were saying the same thing in terms of, as someone who's relatively fresh to the French women's team, I thought they were really good, but apparently there's quite a lot left in the tank, and they were describing it a bit workmanlike. But in terms of, if you do watch any of the games going forward, Gabby Vernier was player of the match, who apparently is pretty...
Isn't she like the queen of
She
of
was
like French rugby.
unbelievable, yeah. And I must say, the first time I'd kind of known and seen her playing, she was absolutely unbelievable. Before she got like a few minutes on the sidelines, well earned rest. The person who really stood out was Modusu Falrucklo, who plays for Stade Bordelais in the second row, who was unbelievable, just everywhere, incredible in the carry, nailing people left, right, and centre. And in the back row, Léa Champon of Grenoble, and there were quite a few Grenoble fans fully decked out in kit in the stands, which was cool.
Very nice.
But yeah, they were really good. Really, really enjoyed it. Listened to Elgin Alderman's preview on the ruck of it, and he was saying that it's kind of, I think you've got that court, obviously England at the top, and then Canada, New Zealand, and France probably make up the sort of fourth of the big hitters. So pretty good odds on a semi-final place, you would hope. But yeah, keep an eye on it. It was very good.
Well, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Is this is completely irrelevant for French rugby. Is Alona Mar any good?
Yeah, I think she is. I haven't seen too much of her 15s because
She's pretty good in the sevens, wasn't she?
Yeah, I mean she's like a double Olympian in the sevens.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if her stint at Bristol was like her first sort of high level 15s gig, or whether it was very much like transitionary. I think it may have been the first sort of proper competition. I did see a little bit. Apparently, she was really good in albeit an absolute hammering on Friday.
Yeah.
A couple of comments saying that they're not sure. I think at Bristol she was on the wing and she was at centre for the US. I think at 13 on Friday. I saw quite a bit of commentary suggesting that they should try and play her at 8, get on the ball more.
We've got a bit of a Sam Burgess situation going on.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Alona Mahal was mentioned 17 times in that report.
Wow.
Which, is I completely get, because it's
bigger
remarkable
than Messi and Ronaldo, yeah.
Remarkable to have that sort of profile within the game, but when you don't mention an entire competition once, there we go. Rob, we wanted to use today as a bit of a preview for, I think it's fair to say, our favourite competition. It's
back, mate. Let's be honest. That's why we're back, because it's back. Pro des Deux is back, starting in August, because it's French rugby, and it has to start ridiculously early in the height of summer. That's why we're back. We're to give, would you say Pro des Deux is our core offering? I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Mainly because it's so persistent throughout the season.
Yeah. It can't.
I do feel a bit lost when we don't in the fallow weeks where it has like that 3-week break in like January, February. I do feel a bit lost without it. But yeah, Pro des Deux is back. Our favourite league. I think
it's got to be, isn't it? I think it's got to be.
Why is it your favourite league, Richard?
Why is it favourite league? Well, we did this, didn't we? I think it's still our probably most watched Instagram reel, and I think it was maybe our first or second episode. But
yeah,
it's a brilliant league in terms. I'd say my view has changed ever so slightly in the sense that you do get the madcap stuff, all the cliches of French rugby, the wild characters on the sidelines, the fans giving it large, the odd moment of disciplinary madness and those sorts of things. But in that time period, it's become I'd say, I wouldn't say a more serious league, because it's always been incredibly highly regarded, but probably a higher quality league with far more international eyes, at least from your sort of what you would loosely term your kind of tier one nations, and particularly from a kind of English, Scottish, Welsh, perhaps slightly less so Irish perspective, just the sheer volume of high profile players who have moved across in the last 12 months and continue to do so. So you've now got this fabulous mix of heritage, of brilliant places, kind of slightly lesser known outposts to watch the ground, but laced with quality throughout. And there's some brilliant kits. So what more could you want? And mascots, actually. Yeah. And mascots.
Mascots are key. I think you make a good point about like the international elements to it are really cool, and like I think there's an element of professionalism that has kind of come in. I think the budgets clearly are very strong in quite a few places. Whether they're backed up by funds or not is a different matter, and that's what adds to the drama of Pro Day Deux, because you never quite know who's going to run off to the Caribbean with a load of cash. But obviously, you know, if you bring in someone like a Courtney Laws, I know we probably overdo the Courtney Laws thing, but like he's going to bring a certain level of professionalism to whatever team he's in. I think the beautiful thing with that though is there is always an element of like the nicheness, I guess, or like there's a story in kind of every club, or almost every player has like a backstory that's interesting. And I think the fact that you do have guys from like Colombia and also like Zimbabwe, and I think there's like a Hungarian player in the league, and Germans, and plenty of Portuguese, plenty of Georgians, plenty of Fijians, but kind of other emerging nations and lesser known nations as well. It's just, you know, Pro Day Deux is their first rung on the ladder to kind of elite rugby, I guess. It's kind of such a brilliant pathway for rugby players all over the world into kind of the wider game. And the fact that you've got these guys rocking up at some random outpost, you know, in the middle of France with a population of 30,000, you know, and half the town kind of comes out to watch them, is just so brilliant. Like these clubs are hubs for the community and of such vibrant places, and it is going to watch the games and being in these places that is just magical. And they really embrace like the quality of the food and the music and stuff like that. They are kind of local shining lights. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and just the
quality of some of the rugby as well is like some of the like pace. Yeah, there is times where you kind of have to check you're not on like 1.25 speed, because it's like it is harem scarum, but some of the like execution of some of the offloads and like chips and chases and stuff like that, some of the quality of the flair rugby is exceptional. It really is. Like
I think as well, you've also kind of got rugby for all sorts as well. It's such a long season that it is literally played in all weathers throughout. You know, it will be at the moment, you know, cracking the flags, I have no doubt. And then you will see games where the pitch is barely visible. You have big squads that have to rotate in order to, you know, be competitive throughout the season, and that throws up kind of perhaps more shocks than we've seen in the past as well. So yeah, there's some incredible kind of French flair involved, but there's a bit of something for everybody. If you want to see props thumping each other, you'll get it in Pro Day. And just to kind of double down on the point you made around the kind of amazing cosmopolitan nature of the league, I suppose. Francisco Isaac, friend of Rosbifs Rugby, put out a great article in which we were actually name checked, which was very good of him.
As experts, which I wasn't expecting.
as experts on. So yeah, it must be our core offering if that's the case. But 24 nations of players in a single league. It's pretty remarkable, and as you say, you've got some extraordinary kind of less heralded sides, and Belgium, Namibia, Chile, everything you could possibly want.
Yeah, I think you talk about there's less heralded sides. There are, you know, guys that are kind of Pro Day Deux is like they're kind of, it's like when like Wrexham being in the Championship almost is kind of like the holy grail for them to have made Pro Day Deux and be doing well in it, like Valence and Soyonga and guys like that. But you've also got in there kind of multiple French champions. You know, you've got the third and fourth most successful sides in the history of French rugby in Agen and Béziers. You've got Biarritz, who Challenge Cup winners and European Cup finalists. You've got kind of clubs like that have been in the top 14 for years. At Brive, Champions Cup winners. There's so much heritage, so many big clubs in there as well, and Nationale. There's a few in there as well, but. Yeah, big clubs mixing it with clubs that have just always been there, like Aurillac and Nevers have never really challenged top 14. Pro Day Deux stalwarts, it's small towns. Yeah, it's a cosmopolitan league just in terms of across France.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. We love it. This season,
who's going to win it, Richard?
Where do we? So you've got your kind of halves, haven't you? Your big hitters, Brive, Grenoble. I think Van will be right up there, having come down the top 14.
Yeah, Van's. I haven't
Provence.
seen any budget stuff for this year, but Van's budget last year was the bottom in top 14. Obviously, I think it was 22 million euros, and Brive were top in Pro D2, and that was I think it was 17 and a half. So like Van's budget, obviously because you're getting more money and there's Challenge Cup money, but
I don't think previous to that, their last year in Pro D2, though, they were like sixth on that log of operating budgets.
Yeah, but you'd have to think coming back down, their budget is going to, there's going to be a hangover.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not the most controversial thing to say between those four. There's part of me that thinks that surely it has to be Grenoble's year. I don't think they'll finish top purely for the virtue of, I think Sam Davis is out till like mid-November, which that chunk of the season might...
Nasty shoulder surgery.
That might be enough to kind of stop them, or in that first third of the season, maybe garnering slightly fewer points. But in terms of the best team at the end, I think they'll be right up there, obviously. I genuinely think Van are very easy to say having come down, but I think they were impressive enough at points in the top 14 and have made some really good signings. Couple of big losses, but then I don't know, maybe there's three sides in there, given the kind of amazing nature of what happened at the end of last year with Montauban going up, that you just feel like it in any other year it has to be their time, but it can't be, because there's three sides, at least in that mix. But yeah, maybe two up this year, maybe Van and Grenoble.
Van and Grenoble, interesting. So I kind of had Grenoble to finish top. I hadn't thought about the Sam Davis element, but I just think their squad was so deep. And so they were so clearly the best squad across last season, and they've not had too many changes. They lose Halub, but they gain Costa Storti, who I think it won't start straight away. I think he's out till about end of September, I think. Okay. But they had plenty of backup there. Like, they've still got Mouton, and they've got some. They had just such a deep squad, I think, of all about the same quality, very, very consistent across the league last year, and I think that's counts for something. I think Provence, the signings they've made are probably the best signings I'd go for across the generally, given that they don't lose big names, but they gain, like Malaise was brilliant, but you should get Thomas Francis back playing. They gained Sebastian Telford-Veneur, who was in the France squad 18 months ago. You've got the current first choice Fijian fly half in Caleb Muntz. Yeah. Albert Tuasui starts for Fiji. Like, they're good signings for top 14. There's a few clubs that it feels like they've signed as though they are top 14 sides, particularly Brive, I would say.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I know you're not totally convinced by a couple of their signings.
I think it's just really weird. Like, they've obviously lost their two best young players. Like, they've lost two GIFs that could well be France internationals in the future, in Mathis Ferte and Leo Carbonneau, to Toulon and Racing respectively. They are, the fact they're going to those clubs as well shows the calibre that they have. They were brilliant in the under-20s. They're brilliant in Pro D2 for 2 or 3 seasons now. So they've lost youngsters. They've lost Ross Moriarty, who was good when he was fit. And they've lost kind of other big names, like Matthias Moroni was great. Sam Johnson's been released. That they're good. They're like proper international players. They get more in, but Cooney, Ben Tapawai's 36. He was decent filling in as third choice 12 at Bordeaux last year, but Bordeaux were brilliant. Tisserand, experienced fullback from Montpellier. Jamie Shilcock, we've said, we highlighted in our contribution to that article, is a brilliant player, like a really good signing for a top 14 side or any Premiership side. Feels like the sort of player that Newcastle Red Bulls should be signing to kind of build their team around as a kind of experienced Premiership player. But I just think they've lost some identity of Pro D2. They've kind of signed. The signings feel like the signings that Van made last year. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, they're the kind of ones that you get because you can't, like, John Cooney's, that's kind of coming to the end of his career, isn't it, really? Like, it's just guys I don't know. I don't quite know how to put it into words, but like experienced heads that, can get a certain level of performance. And that is kind of what you would do if you were in top 14 trying to stay up. It's like it's those sorts of signings.
Yeah, but I think also there's some, regardless of age profile, like there's some proper quality in those signings as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But I
I
also
know
don't know
I do
where they're
know
going to play. Where's Shilcock going to play?
I wonder if they'll go 10 and they'll have Kerr and Bosch at 15 like they did towards the end of last year. But then that I'm not totally convinced that seemed to coincide with things going a little bit, I don't know.
Pear-shaped. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of didn't go that pear-shaped, did it, until the
Yeah.
the semi-final. But yeah, I don't mind it. But I know what you mean. It's it feels a little bit more stopgappy. But perhaps that's what I don't know. Perhaps that's what they need. I do think Shilcock is a really high quality player. We've said it loads. Like he's, as
He
an
was a revelation at Leicester.
someone who's
he
a
was
team
brilliant.
that's struggled a bit at 10, like he's exactly the sort of player. Both him and Caleb Muntz are brilliant out half signings for Pro League sides.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a fair few top 14 teams that you would get. Even some of the big hitters, to be honest, like that lose a load of guys to internationals. I feel like, maybe they
like
someone else, but
Joey Carberry is fairly equivalent to, in terms of international profile, fairly equivalent to Caleb Muntz, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's the fill-in at Bordeaux. Like, what would Stade Francais do for Caleb Muntz or Jamie Shilcock? With their big
obviously
budget.
not enough.
Not enough, yeah.
He's gone to breathe, but yeah, it's interesting. I do think all four of those sides. I like what you say about Provence. I think all of their guys feel like they feel
Good signing.
high quality
and they've kept
savvy and in great positions as well. 10, tight head, like
loose head.
Loose head, and somebody who can play across the back five into a series as well. Like that's just a fantastic setup.
Tuisu is going to have about 4 like absolute blinders where he's just like scores 2 tries, makes 20 tackles.
He's not that old, Albert Tuisu. I thought he is like deceptively.
Is he like 28?
Oh, he's 32.
Okay.
But it feels like he's been around for kind of 20 years. But yeah, great signings there. But I think honestly, you can kind of throw a blanket over those 4.
I think Van are. You're right about their signings. Their signings are Vanny, like Shonner, Dave Cherry. It's going to be, it's experience, but it's going to be physical again. The one team that you had that we haven't mentioned that I've actually got for 3rd place, I've got Briefs down in 5th. I think there's going to be too much disruption. I think they'll be slow to start. I've got Colomiers.
Okay.
Because
they show you're working.
They were great at the back end of second half of last season. They were brilliant. They finished third. But they have made some top quality signings, not least probably the best signing of the season, I think, or could well be the best signing of the season, in Valentin Delpy.
Yeah.
Who was come from, he's a local lad, started at Blognac, went to Toulouse. He's not going far to Colomiers. He was very good in the under 8s for Toulouse in that game. But he was very good when he moved to Perpignan. He missed kind of like 2 kicks all season at goal. And when we saw him at Van playing at 10 or 15, 15. He
was
15,
at 15, wasn't he? Yeah.
He just looks so assured. He can play ball as well as a good kicking game. Just looks so calm. And in my kind of drunken state was like, he's a future French fly half. I think he's 21, 22. And I think he could be absolutely brilliant at Colomiers in a young, exciting team. They've signed Nicolas Martins, who is a brilliant Portuguese international. Didn't get any game time at Montpellier, but was great at Soyo-Angoulême before. And they've signed Luca Plateret, who is an absolute stalwart in Pro D2, but another young back rower. I think he's 24, 25, who gets through so much work.
It's a young stalwart.
A young stalwart. He just plays so many games, plays so many minutes. And I think, they didn't lose that many players either. And I think this year will be about cohesion. I think you see teams struggle. Like, look at Oyonnax last year. They had so many what looked like amazing signings. And how long did it take them to get going? Basically all season. I think Oyonnax will be in the mix this year as well.
Yeah.
I think they've made some really good signings of their own. But I do think Colomiers could be a dark horse again. Either that, or it'll be a complete car crash and they'll finish 11th.
Yeah. No, I think.
Is there anyone that you think? Is there any big names that you think will will plummet?
No, not.
So you've got
I just think
Mont-de-Marsan in sixth, but so my top six is Grenoble, Provence, Colomiers, Vannes, Brive, Oyonnax. You've got Vannes, Brive, Provence, Grenoble, Oyonnax, and then you've got Mont-de-Marsan as your sixth.
Yeah,
I think Oyonnax could make it a top five. I think it's kind of there's an argument that Oyonnax you talked about the big four. Maybe there's a big five with Oyonnax
last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. To be honest, my my Mont-de-Marsan shout's a little bit on the back of last two seasons. A slightly lesser heralded side has made the barrage, right? So I mean, Montauban went up last year, but Soy-Angoulême last year having their highest finish by an absolute stretch. The year previously, Dax having come up from Nationale, so it does happen. And just something like Mont-de-Marsan, I feel like they're a side that have the ingredients. And actually, prior to the last two seasons, they were kind of top of the log, and it hasn't been that much turnover. And I just wonder if they flattered to deceive, and maybe if they get their act together a little bit this year, might be in a position to do something. Yeah, and I mean there hasn't been a huge amount of say turnover, and who knows.
We'll come on to them a bit more in a bit. Yeah, we can move on to Mont-de-Marsan later because we are going to give a little player watch list and I've got a couple of them based on my trip back in April. And from watching throughout last season, but you've got them challenging. I've kind of put Colomiers in there. Who else do you see? I think we've both got Béziers at seventh, which would be a repeat of last year, where they were the comfortably seventh best team. I'd say they were kind of way ahead of eighth and only just shy of sixth, but because of the injuries they had at the back end of the season, we called it from quite a long way out that they would finish seventh, because they just had quite a tough run in and had a load of bad injuries, of which they should get Samuel Marquez back, which is big. I'd say Béziers and Soy-Angoulême are going to be roughly there. Mont-de-Marsan, I quite like your shout. As I said, I think Valence Romans feel like risers, but I think why are they challengers? Why are those clubs the challengers, and why are they not going to be good enough? You've got eighth. That's mad.
Well, I think Béziers. There's something about. I must admit, there are a couple of these sides. I'm not ashamed to admit are a little bit of a blind spot. I haven't been able to see as much of them. But there's something about Béziers. Just seemed to flatter to deceive, despite having some, as you say, some really high quality players, maybe a little bit inconsistent. So they've got
an all-court game. Like when they are good, they are unbelievable. They play some phenomenal rugby.
Yeah,
but they just seem to lose a lot of games.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's been quite a lot of. There's been a bit of off-field upheaval around ownership and things, and quite high profile.
It's positive now.
Well, it is positive
now that Eddie Jordan, post the late Eddie Jordan passing away, which is obviously unfortunate, but it's now stable. It's been the same people for a while now.
Totally.
Bob Skinstad and Andrew Merson's, Johnny Howard.
There were last year, there were kind of letters written, weren't there, about the removal of coaches and things. And, there's no part of me that thinks that it's like some sort of nefarious ownership group at all. But it hasn't been entirely smooth. And you wonder what sort of impact, as you say, because they've got a really rounded game, and they've got some really high quality players, decent budget, amazing heritage and following, and kind of all the ingredients that you would think. And maybe this is the year, but they were kind of comfortably not in the best six teams in the league last year, despite
in the end they were for quite a long time.
Well, yeah,
I think Marquez is you just can't overestimate. They lost their main ball carrier in Otonku Pauta, and they lost their Dupont. He is their Dupont, and he kicks sticks. So I think
they're gonna if we're talking about sides that will challenge that top six,
they are going to challenge.
They're the next 100%. Most obvious, right?
Even without best player in the league last year, Gabin Law.
Yeah, he's gone to Lyon, right?
Yeah, he's been one of the best players in the league the last couple of seasons. Our boys, Sax V, thoughts? It's an interesting one. It's a tough one to call, because part of me is like, they were so good last year with a largely young. It's a weird one. Their average age kind of ends up at the same as everyone else's, but it's pulled up by about 4 blokes. Yeah, it's a largely young group. Like which one is it? Their mode and their median would be much lower than others, I think. And they've signed Richie Arnold, which is a cool signing to have. It's a cool signing for anyone. For any club in Pro D2 to get someone with that it's a phrase I hate, but rugby IQ, from his time at Toulouse.
Recent pedigree as well.
Yeah,
only 2 years ago he was starting at lock for the Wallabies and winning a double.
Yeah. And it's a young group. They clearly had a great coaching effort. They haven't lost anyone obvious. They clearly fell short pretty comfortably in the barrage last year in the end. It's hard to know whether a certain amount of logic says they'll continue to progress given the age profile of the side. They've good signings. There's also a strong argument to say second season syndrome. People are going to work them out. People will know what's coming now in terms of they're going to play so much away from home. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think
which side of that coin do you land?
I think I don't know if I go as far as like full second season syndrome, but I do wonder if but I do think maybe they were like a little bit ahead, like they're standing last year, and they thoroughly deserved it. They were outstanding all year, and as I said, to do it, the difference maker was their performances away from home, which is so hard to do. So I think that's a incredible testament to what they did on still one of the lower budgets. I'm pretty sure in the league. But I do wonder if they're maybe that is kind of a bit of an accelerator season, and they might just revert to that sort of middle table group, which I don't think there's any shame in if that's the case at all. But I don't think they're gonna go full trapdoor. I think they're evidently too well coached for that, as you say, and maybe they will challenge again. And I think that would be almost an even more impressive. When there's a bit more expectation. You mentioned not too many departures. They have obviously Alex Massabaka's gone back to Montpellier, hasn't he? Who was he was absolutely astonishing at points. But yeah, I mean, I think they'll be fine. I'd love it if they were to kind of knock on that barrage door again. I wonder if maybe that kind of middle Nevers sort of ground might be where they. I could have done a good joke there, like that sort of Neverland, but maybe for another time.
Neverland.
When you have to explain it, terrible.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? I feel like we're kind of on the same.
There isn't. It's reversion to the mean seems quite harsh. But do you know the comparison I would make is Newcastle United? So that first season where the money came in, they got to Champions League kind of ahead of schedule, didn't they? They kind of made the top 4 ahead of schedule. And then the last couple of years, they've kind of been outside that, and then they're now back. So whether it's they kind of solidify their place as a top 6 side regularly in 2 or 3 years' time. They were kind of ahead of progress.
Yeah. But I would love, we both would. We love Soyonga. Would love them to continue to upset the big boys.
Yeah. Now we've got Valence Romans in slightly different places. The other team that we've got in slightly different places is Agen. I've got Agen struggling. I just can't see. I don't see enough improvement in the squad from last season, and they struggled last year.
Yeah, they did struggle last year.
If you're not going forwards, you're going backwards. And I don't think they've gone forwards enough compared to. I look at the signings from other clubs, and I think they're generally and who they've kept, and I think that is superior. I've got Agen possibly in the access match. Tell me why you think Agen are better than
what? Well,
because Philip Seller was good in the 90s.
He was great. To be honest, it's a little bit more hunch than anything. I'm really looking forward to obviously our first trip of the year. Our first visit is going to be Agen.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it for a number of reasons, not least history, never been before, all these sorts of things. But actually really looking forward to seeing them play because they do feel like a side from afar that just very much less than the sum of their parts, feel like they implode on occasions. And I feel like I can't see them being that poor for such a sustained amount of time.
I
What
just
would
don't know
say
how
is
much star quality there is. Like it felt like 2 years ago
yeah,
there was a lot of names. Maybe it's just names we recognised, but I just don't. They don't have like we kind of again in our contribution to Francisco Isaac's article. Jamie Shilcock is the player they should have signed. Like Craig Willis
yeah,
has played really well at Ealing the last few years. We know how good Ealing fly halves are because the second best one ended up being one of the best players in the top 14 last year. In the end.
yeah. It's I don't know. It's
But I think that's the sort of player they needed. They needed like Billy Searle and Jamie Shilcock are quite similar players, and like they could have done with replacing Billy Searle with Jamie Shilcock or someone like that. You know, like a kind of no disrespect to Craig Willis, who's you know in any other team signing the best 10 in the championship for a Pro D2 side is a really good signing. But I think Argen need a little bit more direction.
Yeah, you could be right. I think on this, I don't see them genuinely challenging barrage. I think the way I look at this is you got a group that will probably go up, some barrage and challengers, a side or two that will definitely. I don't think they're going to be miles off whatever that middle group is, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm intrigued. Maybe I'll revise my opinion after that game against Beziers on the 23rd of September or whenever it is.
Yeah, there's an element of like while ninth looks like challenging, it's also like just it's the team.
It's
that
like
wins.
one more win.
It's one win on like the last game of the season against a team that's like on the plane.
Yeah,
and therefore you finish
resting 40 players,
and you finish 2 points above 14th. Like it is kind of there's an element of that. One side that was in that pack last year that I think we kind of need to talk about, Biarritz, who had a stunning result at Stade Liège in a warm-up. But where do you see Biarritz? They do start the season with -3. How the hell are they on -3 and Dax are on -5?
I don't know. Better.
I'm starting to believe those buy-on conspiracy theorists that that Biarritz never get punished.
I honestly don't know what to make of Biarritz because they started so well last year, didn't they?
Yeah.
They were unbeaten at home for ages, and yet there just seemed to be this, I don't know what you'd call it, like inevitability about, like as soon as it kind of cracked, it really fell apart very quickly. I mean, I think
there's an argument that the wheels were off for 7 rounds, but when the wheels were off, they were like
everything came off with the wheels.
Yeah. But either side, well, before that they were really good, and after that they were a Pro D2 team that was a Pro D2 team. Like, you know, it was just a kind of complete meltdown in the middle that meant they were kind of plunged for a bit too tight for comfort.
Yeah, I do quite like some of their. I think a couple of the guys they brought in feel maybe what a side that had that kind of meltdown require in terms of bit of solidity. So they like Placine and
they brought back 3 players that I think all started at Biarritz.
Yeah.
Scourge, who filled in relatively well, you know, bearing in mind he was behind Maxime Lucu, but that brings a lot of experience from Bordeaux. Alban Placine, again, as you say, you know, rugby IQ from Toulouse. Brings some edge as well.
Yeah.
And a player I really liked from a couple of years ago that didn't play much at all last year, Mont-de-Marsan Joseven, outside centre, who's a really kind of classy, silky centre. But again, it's that kind of what they tried last year. I remember Iltud Daffith on our preview last year, he said that they were kind of focusing on bringing in Basque players and players from the region, bringing back guys that have come through there. I like as a thing, and I think they are building that identity. You've got some pretty good players in there, like Johan Beragaray, Zach Kibarigi was great, Thomas Dolagaray is a really good fly half. Yeah, they're pretty good. Like they've got some good names in there. They just need a bit of stability.
A bit of Pro D2 grunt as well from is it Fortune and where's Fortune?
Yeah, that's the Fortune.
And Backhouse was at Aurillac for a few seasons. So just like I don't know. I don't think they're the sort of signings that suddenly catapult Biarritz into like barrage contention necessarily, but they do feel. I don't know. They feel like to the point around Argen, maybe not making the kind of clever or forward-looking signings. Okay, maybe this isn't going to make a huge dip, but it will shore them up. And there's a bit of top 14 nous and quality. And as you say, you add in that sort of heritage, which is clearly a big part of both Biarritz and Bayonne's kind of plans and has been over the last few seasons with that Basque Country link. So it feels like a half decent window. Although I do think I'm pretty sure I saw the other day Jonathan Joseph has left.
Has he? He was injured for a long time.
The whole thing does feel a little bit strange, but I might have misquoted that, but I think he might be going somewhere else or retiring, perhaps.
Maybe. The other team we mentioned in there that has got 5-point deduction for financial inconsistencies or not being able to back up budgets.
It just feels so unfair.
Like there was like brown paper envelopes going left, right, and centre at Biarritz, and Dax seemed to be like building this nice plan, and maybe like missed a payment on some investments, and they're punished more. Dax, I think I've got them favourites to go down. They are the team that we agree on as being at least in the bottom two. I've got them bottom. I think 5 points is quite a lot to make up anyway. And
it's a big.
They were so poor at times last year. Like I saw them twice away, and I know they weren't always the best away side, but God, they were dreadful in both of those. They were very lucky to get or denied Mont de Marsan a losing bonus, I think, at the end. But they were barely in the game in a big derby game in two teams near the bottom of the league. I just thought they were so poor. They don't have the budget to bring in a load of quality. It's a pretty physical, basic game, which can work at home, but their home form dropped off last year. Wasn't as good as it kind of had been or what they'd prided themselves on before. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. They might bring... Dax have got... they're a region that brings through a load of players, so maybe they'll bring through some quality youngsters and be back to kind of... They'll surprise people again, but who knows? Yeah, the other team that you've got down there, though, finishing bottom, can't believe you're doing it, mate.
Carcassonne. Yeah, my reason for it is based purely around the end of last season and particularly around the access match. Like, I haven't seen Carcassonne play. They've made a couple of decent signings. Obviously got a very experienced, high quality game manager in Johnny McPhillips, friend of the pod.
Tani Takalua now as well. Best calves in world rugby.
Best calves in world rugby, which is really, really important.
But he's a bloody good experienced nine.
Last year Nice came up maybe a little bit earlier than anticipated in their kind of world domination plan. And actually put in a few decent performances, but they were miles adrift pretty much all season. Carcassonne snuck past Chambéry in the championship match, didn't they, last year? Johnny, last kick of the game. And then Chambéry...
Dubious try as well.
Chambéry, who had been the best side in the league, or consistently the best side in the league, then got hammered at home in the access match by Aurillac. Now, we know Aurillac are a decent Pro D2 side, albeit kind of lower budget. And I just wonder if that gap between the two leagues, unless you've got some serious investment or potentially a bit more Pro D2 kind of heritage, I dare say, you're going to struggle. Now, Carcassonne have the latter. They've spent a fair bit of time in Pro D2 in the last however many years. But I just... Having not knowing enough about how they play, the facts I've got in front of me are that the gap between the teams in the league seems pretty significant. So unfortunately, I've got them coming bottom. But we'll see.
Well, I think we've had a reporter on the ground, haven't we? In long-time listener Jolly, who said that they just looked a bit lightweight, but they have signed two Tomanis.
They got hammered by Argen, who maybe it says more about Argen. Maybe this is the year.
Yeah, they've signed some bulk, and it sounds like they needed some bulk, but it sounds like their back's pretty exciting. So if they can get parity and we know how much bulk up front can help in Pro D2. If they can get that, then they could be really exciting. But they could be the Dax, mate.
They could be
a couple of like mid-Islanders in their mid-30s, some young backs. It's worked, mate. But I tell you who will be this. I tell you who's getting promoted from the top 14 from Pro D2 this year, mate. Based on recent form, Aurillac. They're going to finish soon.
Aurillac.
And then they're going to go away in the barrage and go all the way to the top 14 based on Montalban's performance the year before.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. You heard it here first.
Well, on Dax, in terms of you heard it here first, you mentioned like some, they're quite good at finding some good young Islanders. There is a player here, Jacopi Soval, who they brought into their espoirs.
Yeah.
Who, right, so on All Rugby, he's listed as 5'11", 17 stone 4. Apparently plays at centre. And he's come over as, he was previously in like the West Tigers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Under 21s, I think.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of West Tigers captain, but he's cousin of, which is quite cool.
Oh, really?
But what is particularly good about this, he's Fijian, or sort of Fijian origin, is that they don't have his age on here.
Yeah.
Which makes me think he's going to be amazing.
Because he's actually 28.
Well, I don't know if it's because he's actually 28, or his sort of ascension to the top so outrageous and so fast. But yeah, he's been brought on as an espoir. A team like Dax, he's probably going to play a bit. On the 1 in 100 chance this works, this is the first time. When you say you heard it here first, Jacopi Soval, you heard it here first.
Nice. Well, just very quickly on some players to watch then. We've kind of run through some signings. We will have some posts. We'll go through it all with some posts on social media, and I will try and do a little video on each team for YouTube. But kind of a little bit of a distinction. I wanted to talk about best signings, so players new to the league, and players to watch. So kind of players that are already in the league that kind of you think people should look out for. Now that they can obviously see some of the games free on YouTube in the UK, on FR UK, but also hopefully get yourself out there to watch some games. But who should people watch out for in your eyes? Who are the players that are already in the league that you kind of like the look of and people should be aware of?
Oh, so it'd be someone who's first time in Pro Day but has played at the highest level in the top 14. Who we did mention once or twice last year, Malachi Hawks, who's gone from Toulouse, I think on loan to Provence, who can play, I think, both tight head and hooker on occasion, which is
I think you're right,
quite cool. Amazing mullet, Australian, but GIF qualified, I think, and very much, if we're going to go for some cliches, going to go for sort of all-action prop forward.
Yeah.
But does seem to be able to hold his own in the scrum. I think he'll get a lot of game time. Will be really, will be very cool.
Well, based on how much game time Paul Malez got last year. He gets game time.
And then the other one had down. Has he played in? I'm not sure if he has played in Pro Day there, but he was on loan at Cass and never got a game. But Luca Makova at Oyonnax, I think, is a really interesting one in that somebody comes with quite a big reputation. I think he's still starting 10 for Georgia. And I know someone who Francisco has kind of been, ushering to Pro Day their size to try and get in. And going into what is obviously a fairly, well, obviously it's professional, but like a big Pro Day their side in Oyonnax, you would assume will probably be given the keys over, because I think Chris Smith has gone back to.
Chris Smith's gone back. And I think Zach Holmes was really good last year. Might play 12, might play 13. Yeah.
Yeah. So you wonder if he'll be given the keys and maybe a really good opportunity to. In fact, there's some really high quality 10s, aren't there? It's unsurprising, but you mentioned Delpy earlier at Colombia. He's going to be amazing. But they're the two that I like the look of.
I think the key thing there for Matt Carver, whatever you want to call him, Luca, is he will be playing with Lobshanidze, who has been the starting scrum half for years for Georgia, 80-something caps. So the fact that he's got, because he kind of got signed short term, I guess, as a medical joker for Pierre Popelin. At Cass, never kind of, played one game where they sent the Shags to Toulouse and got hammered. But having a guy that he's played a lot of rugby with, generally, I don't know what his French is like, but the communication is going to be a little bit better with kind of his countrymen there, and a guy who Lobshanidze in his own right is a good player, and I think that could transform Matt Caver into a pretty top quality 10 and a really astute signing. I think Oyonnax, I really like their signings. Uzek Kassim is obviously post hoo-ha around his signing. Is a very good player. He was, the game I saw, I know he didn't get quite as much game time at Bayonne last year because of Habel Kufner, but it was brilliant in a game that I saw him at the Real Arena, both before and after the game when he was leading the song. with the crowd, but a good player. And I think Danny Tuala is one that's a really cool signing. You know, you've got your Samoan starting 12 for Moana Pacifica after a pretty good, I know, Artie Surveyor stole quite a few headlines for Moana Pacifica in Super Rugby this year, but Danny Tuala is a really good international 12 playing alongside, you know, an international 10. I think it feels like good. If they can get a lot of game time out of him, they're going to get some go forward and a bit of grunt that they needed from after last year. They were a bit insipid at times. Yeah, I think other signings, I think we kind of mentioned them perhaps very briefly, but Dave Cherry, Nick Shonnett, two very good signings for Van, two British signings. Yeah, Dave Cherry's the current Scotland starting hooker.
Yeah, and was really good in the Six Nations.
Yeah, like,
it was great.
That's a hell of a signing for Pro Day.
Yeah.
You know, but guys for me to watch out for from the league that are already there. Roman Trieu, we mentioned that Sam Davis might not play, so Trieu might slot in at 10. I mean, he's anyone that's watched a decent amount of Predator will know that that's not really news, but he's still only 25. I think he's a really, really good all-round player. Mentioned that Monda Marsan might be kind of on the rise. Two players that really impressed me last year, certainly when I saw them down in the Derby round game. Ioana Yashagashvili, who is a mountain of a number 8, but such a dynamic ball carrier. Like, here's a terrifying sight in full flow. And at the other end of the spectrum, they've got Shamal Bento, Portuguese fullback, who shades of Niniashvili, just like looks like he's going to spark something every time he gets the ball. Yeah. In terms of other players to watch, I could basically name the whole Sax V squad, but I'm going to plump for Mamadou Mete, who I think was on loan from Stade Francais last year, but kind of signs permanently this year, the hooker for Soyongalem. He is brilliant. He's just great, like, dynamic ball running game, great offloading game, gets around the park, turnovers. I think Arrows could possibly do with a bit of work, but name me a young hooker that doesn't struggle with that. I think those are the kind of he's the one to stand out for. Maybe Seydou Diakite. I really want to see more of him, the young tight prop at Swinglem. Final one that I've got, I think at the top of my list, just because alphabetically Bezier came first, but Taylor Gotignac, who is a French-Romanian inside centre, looks like he's kind of got the complete game sort of player that you can see a Leon snapping up in future years, a Leon or a Perpignan or someone like that. Like, yeah, he looks like he could be playing at the top level for me.
Excellent. Very comprehensive. Should we have a quick look ahead to the first round? Because
go on.
There's a couple of
fixtures.
Oh, well, the
Oyonnax
theory will be tested early doors because they've got to host Grenoble on Friday at 9 p.m, which is pretty cool. Elsewhere, you've got
Derby game,
Aurillac Carcassonne, which will be, well, to put that theory to the test of whether or not, of how big that gap may or may not be. Last year's 15th place versus Carcassonne coming up from Nationale.
Yeah.
Our boys host Provence. God, some really tasty first fixtures.
It's a really tasty first set of fixtures.
But particularly, and there's a bit of a nuance in here as well, Brive host Van on Saturday night.
One of the few, there'll probably only be another one of these, or one or two, went there, Saturday night games. Brive, the big spenders. They'll probably be the two biggest budgets, I reckon, this year.
Would have thought so.
Which I think is kind of how it started last year. It was Brive versus Oyonnax last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Brive. Mate, Brive have got some fingers in the till when it comes to sorting the fix. Yeah, they seem to get like
the prime
gigs every time. They play a lot of Thursdays or the Friday night 9:00 games. They're getting the big money elements of the TV games as well. But yeah, hosting the relegated side for the second year in a row could be an interesting one.
But it's a really exciting, heavy hitting first round, I'd say. The schedulers know what they're doing there. We've got to get some big matchups in early. Yeah, awesome.
Well, we've mentioned it a few times. Do you want to go on to Nationale?
We could do a quick little review of Nationale. They've already started.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
I saw some footage from Périgueux. It looked like it was about 35 degrees.
Oh.
But yeah, already started. We love Nationale. A couple of intriguing results. Narbonne overturned Massy despite having 11 players on the pitch at one point.
That's a brilliant result, by the way. Massy had a great end to last season. Narbonne, I think they could be the team to beat this year for me.
Narbonne, and you would assume big spending Nissa Rugby.
Yeah, I don't know about that,
The artist
think,
formerly known as Nice. You think they might have gone a bit mental with their 30 signings?
I think how is that not how do you gel 30 signings?
It seems a bit crazy. I mean, it's worked okay first up. They beat Stade Tarbes away from home 42-6. Something that intrigues me in this game is that both outside centres got red cards on 40 minutes. So I'd imagine there's a decent clip somewhere, which is quite exciting.
I think didn't the Narbonne hooker get sent off for gouging?
Well, he got sent off. I didn't realise he got sent off.
I think it was for gouging. I think someone said to us, Reese Lewis, I think it was on X. Apologies if I've got that wrong, but said that the Narbonne's hooker could be out for a while because he got sent off for gouging.
Well, it was actually.
Not only did they have 11 yellow, they were 4 yellow cards. They were down. One of the 4 players off the pitch when they were down to 11 was the hooker.
Unfortunately, he thought it was retro round and he'd get away with it, but it's actually next week. So that's not ideal for them. The other eye-catching results were so it was about Friday night. Rounding that off, Chambry beat Bourg-en-Bresse pretty comfortably. Niort got their first win over Marcon-Baruel.
Yeah.
And it's a real geographical spread, isn't there? It's properly all ends of the country this year.
Yeah.
Up in the north.
Rennes and Marcon-Baruel. That's the 2 most northern outposts. And Rouen. Who lost at home to Suresnes, which is a little bit of a turn-up, a late penalty I thought
try.
Rouen were going to be... Well, we'll put some table predictions out there, but Rouen were going to be up there for me. I thought they were going to be pretty good.
Yeah, that's a big early win for Suresnes. And then Périgueux, our boys beat newly promoted Rennes 42-21. And
wearing my Périgueux t-shirt in pride. Cap D.
And Bourgoin beat Albi, which is a good start. Bourgoin have had a real iffy time of it at points in the last few seasons.
There's not a lot of money going on at Bourgoin, I don't think.
So I'd imagine they're pretty happy to beat Albi, who are usually there and thereabouts.
Yeah.
Which is... Just
looking at some of these signings for Nissa, some of the names, like Hayden Thompson-Stringer, good player, but like Josh Terrell was really good last year. Masavesi Dakawanga, Wasea Naifalevu. Like, there's 2 blockbuster players there. Guillaume Rouet, who was so good for Bayonne last year. They've signed a good like first choice top 4 of the top 14 scrum half to play in the 3rd tier. Owen Williams, like I think 10. He played pretty well at 10. He was like found a bit of form at the Ospreys back end of last year, I think.
It's wild.
Jean-Pascal Barak, gold medalist like a year ago.
It screams dominating the league and losing to like a last minute drop goal in the Doesn't it? Oh, we'll see.
I think it's Mr. Algege, isn't it? Just trying to be I don't know where the money's coming from, probably from his Hong Kong trust funds or whatever. That's a joke for people that listened at the back end of last year. Bit of an interesting character. The French rugby's Steve Parish.
Amazing.
So that was a whistle-stop tour of Nationale. But I think New York are going to be all right. But who's winning it? Who's going down? Quick thought.
Oh, who's winning it? The team that are going to beat Nissa Rugby with that last-minute drop goal are Albi.
Ooh,
there you go.
I've got Albi struggling this year. They just lost to Bourgoin, mate.
Yeah, but they'll come good.
I'm going Narbonne. I think
they have genuinely been there and thereabouts, haven't they?
Yeah. And I think they've had their time in Nationale. I think, they won the heritage of the club. One-time Challenge Cup winners, I think. Maybe Challenge Cup runners-up.
Yeah. I think so.
I know Gonzalo Casada played for them. But I think there's a lot of frustration at Narbonne, from what I can tell, in the kind of local area. And
the fallout last year was bad.
Yeah, because they kind of bottled it, really. I think they're the sleeping giant in Nationale. Of those clubs, I think.
And Chambry have lost quite a few, haven't they?
They've lost
having been really good last year. Yeah, we'll see. Narbonne and Albi good trip additions, I would say, in terms of proximity to other spots, which is key.
I think Bourgoin are going to go down. I think the promoted sides will be all right. Although,
Interesting.
and I think Marcon Barrow might struggle this year. Tarbes and Marcon Barrow. I think New York are going to be all right. I think Rennes are the next Nice. They're the next riser.
You reckon?
Yeah, bit of Brittany.
Is that because we saw them on the train last year when they were going to Geneva?
Yeah, and they look big.
Yeah,
because they're professional. Because they're professional rugby players. That's why, Robert. We mentioned it there, Rich. Trips. What the thing about Nationale, and one thing that is very good, is that they name all the fixtures in advance, which is rare in, I'd say, in
European sport.
Yeah, for it to be named so far in advance, which does help with the fixture planning, gives a nice backup option for whether you want to watch Pro Day or Top 14, because you've got Friday and Saturday games in Nationale. And a lot of them, well, some of them you're probably not going to make, like Marcon Barrow up in Lille. There's no direct flights from the UK. It's a tough place to get to. Like, it's a long way from quite a lot of places. Although presumably there's a Eurostar, right?
Yeah. It's like an hour and 10 minutes.
yeah. Like I said, really tough to get to. But a few of them are kind of near other games as well. Trips generally. What are you? Oof. Any that you've? Wow. I mean, there's some great rounds. Like we'll do a little post of our picks, but any that scream to you. Obviously, you kind of eyeballed the one that we're doing in September. You kind of eyeballed that one fairly early on.
Yeah, don't know if it's specific weekends, but a couple of double or doable ones. Although they're miles apart, you can TGV it pretty easily from Valence to Toulon. Yeah, which in terms of like spread of. I think Valence is kind of like a little bit kind of mountainous, right? Or it's not a million miles away from Grenoble. So a bit of kind of hills and beach, and two places never been. Apparently Valence is really lovely as well. Yeah. So that would be a good one. I'd love to. The kind of holy grail is La Rochelle, right? Haven't been able to get there. And Niort is really near La Rochelle, right? So that's quite an intriguing double header. If you're able to do that, and I guess. Well, no, it's actually quite a long way south from Rennes, and as we found when we went to Vannes last year. So those are the ones that kind of spring to mind. As I would also I'd like to get to Béziers and Narbonne. That's a possible doubleheader, isn't it? And they're really close. And I guess Perpignan, you could wheel into that. I've never been to either of those. I know you have. Yeah. So they're probably the three. The one I really want to get to, but is a bit fiddly, is Aurillac. I feel that's kind of the final boss kind of trip, isn't it? And I did look. When we go to Toulouse, you can get a train from Toulouse to Aurillac, but it's about 3.5 hours each way, which is quite a lot if you're only there for 15 hours all told. Yeah, I think it's going to be a car one, that, isn't it? Realistic. I think it's one of those, the train and car. It's like exactly the same distance. It's just like it's not. Some are quite poorly connected by train, right? So, but I think that is just sheer yards. Yeah. So they're the ones for me. I think Nevers is yards as well from quite a lot of places. I think I'd quite like to go to Toulon. I still haven't been to the Nile. And having Provence in such close proximity, you can line up. I think there's a few that line up really nicely where you've got a Provence game on the Friday night that's quite a big one, and then a quite good Toulon game on the Saturday. Although I would say one that looks fairly tasty even this far out. Second weekend of May, Provence host Vannes on the Friday night, and the Saturday is Toulon v Toulouse, which you would imagine is the game that once again they will host at the Stade Velodrome in Marseille, because they have done for multiple years, and it seems to be the same weekend. To go to the south of France in May and Aix-en-Provence to Marseille is nothing. Like, the airport is equidistant between the two, and it's about a 15-minute cab. Really, really easy on that. I'd hazard a guess you'd probably be more difficult to get a ticket for that Provence game. Than Toulon. Probably. Yeah. The one that I've already lined up is, and I want to do it again. I did it last year, but I'm going to do it again. It looks like we will get a repeat on Derby weekend, kind of back end of April, of Mont-de-Marsan hosting Dax and Bayonne hosting Pau, which you would imagine will be again at the Real Arena in
San Sebastian, which was one of my favourite trips from last year, certainly. Yeah, I think that's I want to get to a few more Nationale games, I definitely do. But yeah, those are the main ones for me. There's one really tasty one on the Champions Cup. I think it's, Colomiers v Grenoble on the Friday night. And then if you're a Saints fan, Po v Northampton on the Sunday. I think that it's a bit of a trek. It's a few, like, you've got to be prepared to get on a train for a while between Toulouse and Po, but it's not horrific. And that's two great cities and two quite tasty games. And obviously, if you're a Northampton fan, you want to go to one of your away, Champions Cup. If you're getting your away games in France, you're doing well. So
I think, on that, I think I might be wrong, but when Bath played Toulon on a Sunday, and I think Valence are at home. Or
Provence v Béziers as well. That was the other one I was looking at. So that's the second round of the Champions Cup. It's Provence v Béziers Friday night. Well, likely Friday night, and then Toulon v Bath.
Pretty good.
Again, pretty good. So those are the big ones that and then round 3 was the other one. You could do 3 games in a row. Saxe v Nevers on Friday, Périgueux v Nice. So a trip that we did, Angoulême to Périgueux on the Saturday. Périgueux v Nice could be quite a big game in Nationale. And then Saints have done well this year. UBB versus Saints, a repeat of last year's final on the Sunday. So
that's a very good trip.
Saints fans and neutrals, that is a good trip because those are 3 brilliant towns with some very good
basically a
food and
more
drink.
Relaxed version of what we did last year, because you've got a day rather than 3 hours between the games. Fantastic.
But we will be putting up some our choice of itineraries, and but get in touch if you've got any questions. Please come at us and ask us, and we'll do our best to help you out.
See what we can do. Very good. Rob, we'll be back next week, I assume, to preview the top 14. But is there anything else you wanted to touch on ahead of first round of Pro Day there?
No, just that there'll be hopefully loads of stuff coming out this week, because Pro Day is starting, and we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive on each. Well, a light dive on each
shallow dive.
A shallow dive on dangerous.
A dive that ends you up in hospital. into each of the teams.
And I can't. You mentioning the fixtures made me think that we've got to do the predictions again.
Oh God.
For 30 weeks of the season, predictions of Pro Day 2.
Let's just call it whatever it is, 100, 101. Ridiculous. Okay. Just as a little top 14 teaser, so there'll be final preparation and then weekend after next. You see first round, big fixture. It's the Rosbif Derby. Round 1. Yeah. So we'll preview that and more next week. But
oh God, top 14. That is. Whoa. I've been so many teams in Pro Day that you kind of even I've barely looked at top 14, and just some of it is so up in the air. It's fascinating this season. Both are. Looking forward to it.
Right, don't forget to follow us, subscribe on our newly enhanced socials. We've had a bit of a facelift. At Rosbifs Rugby, get in touch, rosbifrugby@gmail.com. In the meantime, keep an eye out for our light but dangerous dives into Pro Day and enjoy first round. Who's the
Friday?
There's no Thursday fixture,
Friday and
right?
Saturday,
So what's going to be on FI UK?
I don't know. We haven't.
The Saturday game?
Might be a Saturday game, which would be epic.
That would be really good. Right. Anyway, enjoy. It's going to be an amazing season, and we'll be with you every step of the way, as they say, Robert. That's it. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.